Hello, everybody. My name is Amy Miller, and I am excited to be spending the next 45 minutes with you talking about how to navigate and plan and teach using TCI. Before we get started, we do have a couple of housekeeping issues. This is the same slide that Brian Thomas shared with you before. And as you might have heard Christy say, we're still working on that chat feature. Also, the closed captioning is there. Well, it's time to meet TCI Social Studies Alive elementary programs for California. And each of these programs was created by TCI and meet the frameworks in California. Also, you may have heard Bert Bauer talk about how he's in Mountain View, California, and California teachers have always been at the heart of TCI. So if you are a California teacher, you are in the right spot because this session is going to focus specifically on your California programs. I also want to take a moment to point out that the same people who created the kindergarten, first, second grade program created the third, fourth, and fifth grade programs. And so what you're going to find with your students is that it's going to become more intuitive as to how they grapple with that text. And the vertical articulation is just perfectly aligned. The first step today is to talk about how to navigate TCI, our online resources, and talk about how that connects with the print resources that we have as well. Then we're going to get into how do you teach and plan? And then finally, how do we assign those assignments to our students? How do we assess them and how do we grade with TCI? Wow, I love this slide because this is how I fell in love with TCI over 20 years ago. The engaging activities are at the heart. Engagement and learning, it is just comes through with the students and it brings the social into the social studies. The ELA integration, we obviously understand the importance of reading and writing in the social studies content area and making sure that we are supporting our English language arts. And finally, what's kept me with TCI for over 25 years is that it's easy to use. I found that it has given me some of my time back. I used to spend hours and hours planning dynamic lessons, and then I realized, wow, TCI has created them, and then I get to tweak them to make them my own. Let's talk just for a moment about our lesson structure. Um, we have an overview page with our lessons, and you're going to see that there are some flexible lesson options. There are going to be times when you want to get into the reading and the writing and the reading comprehension, and that's just going to be the focal point. However, the heart of TCI is going to be where that hand is. If you just take your hand and put it over your heart, that's your classroom activity. That's where the students are going to be engaged. They're going to be interacting with one another, and the reading is built into the classroom activity. Sometimes as teachers, we want to dive deeper. We want to deepen the understanding of content with some extra materials. And TCI has provided that. We have an explore section, a literature section, and primary sources. So we have additional resources to help enrich our classroom and make those lessons more meaningful for our students. We also understand the importance of assessing. And so we have opportunities to assess our students, and we also want flexibility with that as well. Of course, we have the traditional TCI assessments. In addition, though, we have games, lesson games, vocabulary games. I believe Brian Thomas is doing a session on that today, gamification. And also the show what you know. Those process activities, as you're going to see, are great opportunities to assess our students, and they are authentic in that the students are going to tell you what they've learned. It's going to be from their own mindset. And so each one of them, of the responses for that, is going to look just a little bit different. So now we want to experience a TCI lesson. Before I go live, I just wanted to give you a little insight into the lesson I've chosen. I've chosen a lesson that I think really gets to the heart of TCI, and that is how can one person make a difference? It's really interesting. We heard from Bert Bauer at the very beginning, and one person and created a small group of people, and then they created an entire curriculum. Well, I also chose this lesson because oftentimes in society, we hear lots of people identifying challenges and problems, and it takes an empowerment to then find a solution for that challenge. What you're looking at right now is called the unit overview, and we'll get back to this in just one moment. Um, I'm going to go ahead down here and I'm going to click on this lesson. How can one person make a difference? And then what you're going to see when I scroll up are the same things that you saw on the slide prior to this. Our reading, our classroom activity, we want to stick with slideshow 2.0 because it's better than 1.0. I'm proud to say that TCI is always moving forward and making our material even more engaging and easier to use. So 2.0, in my opinion, is it's not just my opinion, it's the updated version and is better than 1.0. We'll get into the read and do and the purpose of that in a little bit. Dive deeper, we have some exploring and some primary sources, and then the same 3 assessment choices that you saw on the previous slide. But let's jump right in here to this classroom activity. What you're going to see when you go into the lesson is you're going to see that we have a preview. That's our hook. We want to give kids a starting point. And then we have 2 phases of the activities. There's a read and do, a vocabulary, and a processing. To the right of those, you'll see how long we think it will take to complete that particular section or part of the lesson. And we got that number because we worked with teachers across the country, and teachers piloted the lessons and came back and said it took us about this long to complete every part of that activity. So let's take a look at the preview for how can one person make a difference. Oh my goodness. Think if you were in a 2nd grade classroom and your teacher projected this image in your classroom. Look at this. Oh my goodness. Let's dive in a little deeper with this. We've got teddy bears all over. Oh my goodness. Crayons, markers, Legos. Think of the visual this could be if you put this at the front and center of your classroom. What problems do we see in this room? Well, we do have some sharp toys on the floor. Homework is hidden. It's a great opportunity for your 2nd graders to chime in to see whether or not that's happened to them. And there's no place to walk to the bed. Where's the path to get to our bed? Now, truth be told, that probably looked like my classroom when I was a little girl, and I'm sure your students will be able to relate to that as well. So we've seen an image that highlights some problems or challenges. Well, how can each problem hurt you? We want to make sure that it's a problem, right? If it's not harmful or if your homework's not there, it might not be a problem. So you'll notice these little plus signs over here. When I click on them, it's going to give us the answer. And I often find when I'm teaching that I'm not necessarily in need of those little plus signs because the students come up with the answers right away. But it's a great opportunity for them to turn and talk with their neighbor, or you can just ask individual students what the response is. Well, this is an example of a problem in a home. Think about our classroom or school. What problems have you noticed? Now, I'm going to take a moment here to talk to you teacher to teacher, because what we did is we just made a bridge for something that every child can relate to in their own personal world. And now we've made a bridge into the classroom or school. We've made that connection. And so now we're going to be looking at problems in our in our school or our classrooms. And so let's make a list. So we're going to make a list of this. What is the problem? And then how it hurts others. Okay, and you'll see there's some hints here. This would be a great place to write on a whiteboard or have some chart paper. And now we're going to look at our preview activity in our print or online interactive student notebook. I mentioned earlier we were going to be talking about our resources in print and online. What you're looking at is the online version. However, that's identical to what the students would have in their print version. So list 3 problems you've noticed in our classroom or school, tell how each problem hurts us, and write a sentence to explain. One of the things that I would like to talk to you about teacher to teacher is sometimes, to be fair, I need to shorten a few things in my classroom to make sure that I still hit on that topic or we hit on that subject, but we really don't necessarily have all the time needed to fill in all of these writings. So you could do this as a whole group. You could just have them explain and turn and talk. You can have them write, and that definitely supports the ELA, but this is just one chance or one example rather of how you can flex within the lesson to make it meet the needs of your students in your classroom. So then we're going to share our work. And then as a class, we're going to pick one of those problems. And now you'll see something new. We're not just identifying problems, we're talking about solutions for those problems. And that's really gets to the heart of where this lesson goes, because we want kids and our future citizens, or not future citizens, but citizens, our children in this country, to focus on solutions to some of these problems that they see. Now, over here to the bottom left, you're going to see an ELA, ELD writing. As a teacher, you can click on that and it gives you some tips. So for example, review the problems identified in the preview and the suggestions for making them better. Have mixed ability groups of 3 or 4. Write a list of steps to take to put one of the suggestions into effect. Tell students to write the steps in sequence, and each group could share or should share their process with the class. So you will find these little purple buttons that give you these extra tips for ELA and ELD. We saw a problem in our school and we thought of a way to solve it. In the same way, people can see problems in a community and think of ways to solve them. How are people in this picture helping their community? And so now we've bridged from our home to our classroom and school, and now out into the community. And you'll see that this particular image is showing a clothing drive. The button that's green that says read, when you click on that as a teacher, it puts the text right there in front of your students. It also is the same as what would be in their online journal or in their journal. Couple of features that I would like to point out. If I wanted to read to the students.
Introduction. Civics. All communities have problems. They solve their problems in different ways. The people in this photo are holding a clothing drive.
If I want to lower the reading level, I can choose this little book and it will lower it to level B, which is 25% lower. I can use the main idea tool to highlight the main ideas. I can also use a highlighter tool. All communities have problems. Let's highlight that. This little text button over here allows students to add notes into their online resources, and then they can share it as a document and print it. They also have those that they can use to study with. Teacher to teacher, I'm going to be honest that probably is the least used button that I have in my classroom. So the others, extremely helpful though. All right, and with that, let's get back into our lesson. We will be learning about 4 people from the past who solved problems in their communities. 2 of the problems were in urban communities, and 2 of the problems were in rural communities. I love this lesson because sometimes what we can do is we can identify one urban challenge and one rural challenge, and there's a variety of perspectives in how these the people who made a difference and solved the problems. So it gives just a lot of flexibility in here for teachers. Let's take a look at the urban problem solvers first. How this lesson is set up is the students would sit in groups of 3 and they would have a handout that has an image and a place where they can write what the problems may be and ways to help the people that are in the image. And then down here, this is the best. As a group, you have to agree on your solutions to the problems. That's one of the reasons why we have them in groups of 3, so that majority can rule. So let's take a look at what this would look like. We're going to put this image front and center of our classroom, and then we're going to ask our students to identify whether it's in the city or the country. Remember earlier, I talked about vertical alignment. And this is a great place to know that earlier in the year, we would have taught them the difference between urban and rural. So they should have that information. Now we have a chance to review it, look for evidence, and then justify it, or look for your answer and justify it with evidence to show that it is in the city. And then, of course, we have this little button that can help us. We also have this tool over here that can magnify and make it bigger. So we could identify some of these challenges. Oh my goodness, look how dangerous that trench looks. And where are the parents? Teachers always ask that when I work with teachers in California. They always ask, where are the parents in the image? These kids are playing in the street. So it's a picture of city streets in Chicago around 1890. And clearly we can identify several challenges in this picture. So we go into this handout, we're going to look at that picture, we're going to write ways to help the children. We're going to share our ideas that we came up with in our groups. And now we're going to read about Jane Addams. She gave children a place to play so that they were not playing in a dangerous street. So once again, we go into our text and we can show it and read it on the big screen. Students also have it in their journal. And then we compare our solutions to what Jane Addams came up with. So just take a moment to reflect about where this lesson has gone so far, because this is how the TCI lessons work. We had our preview with our personal experience, then TCI helped build that bridge. We went into the classroom, we identified some things around us, more familiarity. Now we've scaffolded to the community and clothing drive. And now we're looking at something that happened in the past. We've looked at an image and come up with our own ideas. And now we're going to read what really happened in history. And so then we go to another challenge. This one is about Garrett Morgan, and he created the stoplights. And so we would read about Garrett Morgan. So those are our 2 urban problems. So then when we go into phase 2, we're going to follow the same format, but those are about rural problems that existed in rural communities. You're going to notice that each one of these it's identical 35 minutes because this particular lesson is set up in the same way. We also have a read and do, because we want to make social studies relevant to our students. And so this particular read and do is about a 6th grade girl who solved a problem in her community. So if I go into that, it goes into the story about how this girl created problems. She saw a lot of trash. There was trash in the park and what she did. So I'm just going to play a short example of this.
Read and do. Save the Park Day. Seeing a problem is the first step to solving it. A 6th grade girl named Michelle saw that the park in her neighborhood was dirty. How did she solve the problem in her community?
Okay, so that is a real life example of a girl that's not that much older than the 2nd graders in your classroom who saw a problem, identified a problem, and then found a solution. So the part here is we really want to help them feel empowered. So then we would put we called this feature drag and drop, and I'm just going to go straight over. We'd sequence what Michelle did. You'll notice over here we have another ELA, ELD tip about retelling a story. We can check our answers. Oh my goodness, I only got one of those right. And then we can identify some problems in our own community. And now we go back into our notebook, our journal, and we're going to draw a picture of one problem in our community and write a sentence about it. And then draw a picture of a solution to the problem, write a sentence about it, share it with the class, and then what are the most common problems and solutions we described? We do also have a vocabulary activity to help our students understand the vocabulary and be able to use it. Again, it's that drag and drop. And then finally, the processing. Create an award to honor someone who has helped in a community. It can be someone in our community or someone you learned about in this lesson. And when you finish, show your award to a partner. I love the flexibility with this lesson because you can scaffold it and differentiate it with the students in your classroom. You can use this as an opportunity to involve your families and let your students go home and together with their family decide who they'd like to create this award for. You can use the template of the award, or you could have students do something digitally, or you could have them create something from scratch or on construction paper. You can make it 3D versus 2D. This process activity just has a lot of opportunity to make it your own. Also, if you remember when I talked about the role of a processing activity and using it to assess, I mentioned the word authenticity. It's authentic because every award that these students create is something that they have created themselves and have ownership over. Now, what I'm hoping that you've gotten out of this so far is that this lesson is super important in helping our students feel empowered. We want problem solvers in our communities, and this lesson is just ideal for making that happen. This slide right here, and when we're ready to assess, now I just showed you what the process activity looks like for that. Let's take a look at what the lesson game looks like for that. These lesson review games are awesome. The kids love them because we've basically taken reading comprehension and turned it into a game. Luis Valdez was one of the urban problem solvers. So let's just, I'm just gonna take A. Oh my goodness, let's see if I can get it right the next time. Hooray, I earned 0.5 points. But the students go through and in this particular lesson game, they they click, they answer it, they turn it in, and then a picture is made at the end. It's really, they absolutely love it. Also, there's flexibility with this. You can put it up on the big screen in your classroom and you can take turns choosing a number and answering the question. You could have them work in teams or you can have them do it individually. We also have assessments, and our assessments, as I mentioned earlier, are your basic general assessments. You see, I've made a few of my own, but let's take a look at what this assessment looks like. We start with the big ideas. Then we go into the read and do, social studies skills, and then show what you know. So we scaffold the assessments and we get the big ideas, the read and do if you chose to do that, the show, the social studies skills, and then the show what you know. So that is what a TCI lesson looks like in your classroom. All of those slides that were in the presentation can be edited. I chose just to pull it up and go with it, and you can do that too. Now that we've seen what that looks like, let's take a step back and see what this could look like in our classroom. So I'm going to open up this toolbar to the left. Everything that relates to the lesson can be found in the lesson. So if I want to know lesson-specific tips to help my students be successful, I'm going to stay within this lesson. Let's take a look at an overview. There are our objectives: social studies, language arts, social justice, and social emotional learning. Then again, I see what is involved in the lesson and the time that we think it will take. What materials will I need to do this lesson? What kind of teacher prep would be required to use this lesson in my classroom? And then this one is my personal favorite: differentiating instruction. The top of this gives you some ideas, general overview. Then we get into specific tips for different groups of students in our classroom. Our English language learners, our students with special needs, our learners that are reading and writing below grade level, and our advanced learners. We want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our students, and these are lesson-specific tips. So if I go into a different lesson, my differentiation tips created by TCI will look different. We also want to make sure that we are enhancing what we're doing in our classroom. And there are lots of reading opportunities and books. There are websites that are here that students can access, and we can just take it wherever we want it to go. The sky is truly the limit. Flexibility is the word. Well, that is what a lesson looks like in your classroom. And that's how easy it is to teach using TCI. With that in mind, I want you to think about what you liked about those online tools and go ahead and put it in the chat. What do you like about the online tools that you saw with this lesson? Just the tools in particular. You don't have to go into the heart of the lesson about empowering students. What did you like about the tools that you saw? So just take a moment to think about that. Yeah, the click and go. It is, yeah, flexibility. There is a lot. I'm really happy that you were able to see how the flexibility and the ease of with that. Yeah, the book icon, it's true. It's true. Okay, so I'm going to shift just a little bit. I want to show you some of the other things that are within this program that you have access to, and I just want to share with you the purpose of why they're in there and where they are found so that you can see just a general overview of all of this and what it looks like. So Brian earlier today talked about the professional development. And so if I click on the professional development in that purple tab, all of those classes that he mentioned are right over here under professional development, okay? There is a settings button that just helps you customize what you want your teacher end of things to look like. I really want to focus here on the program. So because our curriculum is a year-long curriculum, the things that you find in the program tab, they are related to you for the whole year. So I'm going to go to the home button. And when I click on program home, it's what I would call the dashboard. It's what you're going to see when you open up your account. And if you have created assignments online for your students, they're here. The student work, if they've turned things in online, and then your units are laid out here in front of you. The lesson I chose was from Unit 4, Biographies, People Make a Difference. You can see there were geography, economics, history, civics. Support. We have, because we work with teachers across the country, we have a lot of options to help teachers have support when working with our social studies curriculum. So this Getting Started with Professional Development is another place to find the professional development classes that Brian mentioned. If you want to know more about TCI's approach to learning and where this all came from, as Bert Bauer mentioned earlier, when he went to Stanford, you can find more information about that there. It's great background and foundational information so that you're even stronger when you're teaching and facilitating these lessons. We have civics resources, social studies skills, and reading and ELD support. We have particular toolkits for K2, 3, 5, and 6 through 12 that we can use to help teachers with vocabulary development, pre-reading strategies, during reading strategies. There are a lot of different options in here, and they're general overview support ideas for the year. Differentiation and accessibility. So I mentioned earlier the consistent multi-model lesson structure. And the really cool part is you're going to see all of your students can be successful because of that consistency in our curriculum from K to 1 to 2, all the way up actually through grade 12. And I mentioned some of our reading tools that you all pointed out were very helpful. I'm going to get into Spanish in just one moment. And then some assessment strategies, inquiry-based standards coverage, and a pacing guide. Oh my goodness. I'm fortunate in my district, we have people who create a pacing guide specific to my class that I teach. Let's go and just see what a sample pacing calendar would look like for that lesson that we just went through. So here we are, our pacing calendar, and we have it set up. And it helps get you through the day. Now, I say helps get you through the day. It actually helps get you through the year. The other part, I'm kind of giggling because if your school's like mine, we have those days where we have, oh goodness, today's picture day. And so we have to adjust and flex. But either way, there are lots of things in the support button that can help you.
And
When you
Amy,
have-
can I just
Yes.
I just dropped something into the chat. So we actually, for our California teachers, we have a specific, it's a Google Doc, it's an Excel doc, but you should be able to see it. And what we have done is we have it broken out, the pacing for each lesson. So it'll show the different activity portions, how long it takes, the slides that it relates to, and that's for the slide 2.0. So I put it in chat. So if you guys want to make sure you
Thanks, Christy.
save it, it's actually better than the pacing calendar that we had to
Oh
submit
no,
to
that's
the state.
great.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Thank you very much for doing that. One of the other things we want to talk about is how easy it is to create an assignment. So you're going to see that if I wanted to create an assignment, I could just click. I'm going to go right back into the lesson we did. How can one person make a difference? I can click the games, and I'm going to do the picture maker, and I can assign it to all of the classes. I'm going to make it due tomorrow and click assign. So really, with maybe 3 clicks, you can assign work to your students through our online program. And then when they open up their program, that assignment is at the top of their, what I call, dashboard. Let's talk about how we can see their grades. Well, right now I have a student-less classroom. Oh my goodness. So, but the students that when they go through, I'll click this little grading in action button so you can see what this looks
Streamline your
like.
grading process and get a bird's eye view of your class's progress with our powerful grading features. The grades page makes grading easy. Save time with auto grading for multiple choice, drag and drop, and fill in a blank question. You can quickly grade short and long form answers with answer keys and provide feedback with stamps and personalized comments for each student. With trends, you can discover which concepts students understand and which need further review for the whole class. Want to give it a try? Add students to your class and create an assignment.
And there you have it. More articulate than I could have been myself. So we've gone through everything related to the program. We'll touch on units toward the end. We've gone through a lot of the items in our lesson, the lesson overview, the materials, the reading, the lesson games. Quickly, I'll touch on the vocabulary cards. Our vocabulary cards are really neat. And we mentioned by teachers for teachers earlier today. We truly are. In fact, you now have the opportunity to edit a vocabulary deck and add cards. You can add terms, add images. And this is because teachers in Orange County, Florida said that they wanted to be able to modify the vocabulary cards and add cards and images. So thanks to the teachers in Orange County, Florida, we all have the ability to edit our vocabulary cards, which I think is really cool. But it's your old school digital card, or old school meets new school. We have our index card. And for this particular lesson, we had one word. I'm going to click on community. Let's see, let's get into maybe some of the other lessons. You'll see that there's like this one, consumer. See, there's an image and a definition. And again, I love the idea that we can edit them and add cards to them. I'm going to take a moment to talk to you about how you can create an assessment and use it in your classroom. So let's take a look at how to create it. We're going to just create it and submit that. And now it's going to open up a new tab. And I can choose TCI only, or teachers from my district, or teachers from around the country. I can create my own questions. You'll notice that it starts off with the big ideas and then goes into social studies skills. We have the read and do if we use the read and do, and then ends with the show what you know. I also can create my own question. I can put in a table, a drawing. I can create a multiple choice question. I can edit some of these questions. So if I look at this, which of these comes from a factory? Maybe I want to change one of those options. Then I can click it. Let's go ahead and add all of these to our test. There we go. And now I can go in and I can edit this. Maybe instead of factories, I want to put school. And then I can save that. And then that would change that distractor. Sometimes you can take away distractors, not sometimes, always. You can edit them however you choose. I can add an image to give students a little more context and how to answer the questions. But our assessment tool makes things easier to use for our teachers and our students. And then because my name is Amy Miller, my test shows up here with the A and the M, and then I can come over here and I can assign it. It's right there. Maybe give that test tomorrow. And there we go. And then as you saw in the grading, the multiple choice, the drag and drop, those are auto graded. The written assessment pieces, then those would be teacher graded. But that's our assessment tool. Very easy to use. The last section I want to talk to you about is our reference section. We have a video library that has all the videos from the lesson. You can find them within here. Some of our biographies have videos that go with them. So if I come down, we have them in the video library. I can also find them in biographies. We have biographies that have videos and biographies without videos. You'll know the ones that have a video with the little video sign. And then you also can play it and show the reading that goes with it.
Over 200 years ago, there was a girl who dared to be different. Few girls.
I love it. We have a civics library that also can be found in our program support,
Amy,
primary source library, and correlations. Yes, Christy.
Sorry, before you go to civics, can you go back up to the biographies? I just want to.
Yes.
So there was a question about Spanish earlier, so I just want to address everything is in Spanish. This is the perfect example of where we do Spanish is like, I mean, you can go into anything, but so for example, our biographies, as Amy just showed, there are videos attached to them. And then if she goes down to the button, and this is on everybody's account. Oh, of course, I won't click on it.
I know. Okay, here we go.
It's all good.
Okay.
So if you went to, it's a little hard to see, but on the bottom left, there is an English-Spanish toggle button.
Okay, now we're in biographies. Okay, so there we go.
So what it'll do is if you go back into Abigail Adams,
Mhm.
and then you can see the whole thing will be in Spanish. And then the video as well, if you just hit like play on it, like 2 seconds.
Hace más de 200 años hubo una niña que se atrevió a ser diferente.
Yep.
Pocas niñas iban.
So
Thank you,
you'll
Christy.
find, yeah, sorry. So you'll see everything in English and Spanish. You can control that. So if you want your students locked into Spanish, you have the ability to do it. You can let the kids toggle back and forth, but you also have the ability to go back and forth. So
Mhm.
sorry, that was a little.
No, thank you
You can
so
keep
much.
going.
That's why we're a team. It's almost, that's the thing. And honestly, I just get really excited about teaching with TCI that I sometimes have the attention span of a squirrel. I just will open something up and then get really excited about it and then um, shift gears. The final thing before we get into our last minute notes is you'll notice that if you click on unit overview and projects, we have a compelling question or compelling storyline that ties all of the lessons within a unit together. And so you can open up with a unit introduction and then have that storyline carry all the way through the unit. And there are also unit projects that go with that. And we actually have a session on inquiry projects later today. So if you wanted to jump in, there might be one in the second session too, second period. I would need to look at the schedule again. However, if you want to know more about the inquiry projects and what that looks like, you can join one of those sessions.
And these unit introductions are directly, the questions that live in there are directly from the framework. So if you were to compare like the questions that are asked there, the things that we're looking at, and then you were go to the California State Framework, you would see the exact same things. So this is 100% built for our California teachers. And I do know that we have some teachers here from other states. Just so you know, those other pieces, like everything basically that Amy has shown, if you happen to be in your own program, you'll be able to see the same kind of pieces. So
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Christy. The digital platform is the same. It's just some of the pieces may look a little different based on California framework versus what you have in your state. So with that, I'm going to jump back into our presentation. We've talked this morning about our TCI newsletter and how to stay up to date on TCI's content, the in-app professional development, and then connecting with your peers in the TCI Facebook group. And Christy, are you able to put the newsletter link in the chat? If not, I have it in my Google Drive.
I will put it into chat for you.
Okay.
In a second.
Thank you. I think that's what sets us apart from other curriculum companies too, is the support. You have support from teachers who are in the classroom. We offer support to help teachers collaborate with each other. And it's just a real positive way to make a difference. Our in-app professional development. And then my final piece is TCI Coach. So we have this great opportunity, and I'm thrilled to introduce the TCI Coach program. It's a unique and exciting opportunity designed for passionate TCI educators like yourselves and me to share our knowledge and make a difference in our schools. So if you will, just imagine being part of a dynamic community where we can connect with fellow teachers, support new TCI users, and contribute to the growth and success of our teaching community. And that's what TCI Coach is all about. So whether you've been using TCI for years or you're just getting started, the TCI Coach program welcomes all educators who are passionate about bringing learning alive. And this is your chance to take your enthusiasm and expertise to the next level, helping others discover the transformative power of TCI. So join us, become a TCI coach, and let's inspire and elevate our community together. And this is exactly how I got my start with TCI back in 1999 was my first lesson I ever taught with TCI. And I saw the difference it made with my students in my classroom. And I immediately wanted to know more. And that's when I chose to join the community. So hopefully throughout the course of today, you'll be inspired by other educators, whether it's through a teacher in chat or through somebody who's presenting some ideas to you and with you, and you'll want to join our community too. We also want to encourage you to share your fan moment with the hashtag TCI Summit and share one thing you learned from your favorite session or one thing you liked about our summit. And then finally, how are you feeling? So put in the chat, are you a 1 or did I just blow your mind with a 6? Hopefully that's kind of a positive blow your mind. If you're a 5, we might want to reach out and make sure we can shift you over to another one of those numbers in the emojis, because really it's all about empowerment and making a difference. Yay! Good. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so happy to hear that, you all. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here this morning. You're going to have a great day. And then next up, period 2, you have some choices. You can go into Google Classroom Integration, discover what's new for back to school. Lesson games. Those are always just so much fun. Content literacy, and then middle school world history may not be your jam since we're K-5 here today, but or this morning. But hopefully I know you will find something that will make a difference in your classroom.